UConn and Tennessee have renewed their series for another 2 years. The Huskies will host the Lady Vols in 2021, 2022, and travel to Knoxville in 2022-2023. In addition, UConn will no longer play Texas this season, as the Longhorns requested to push the series back by a year. So the rivalry continues, and it is going to be happening for another 2 years as UConn and Tennessee will be playing.
It's always a great matchup, we'll see if it's competitive. Usually it's not, but this year it kind of was. It was a closer game, so I think it will be a good matchup coming up.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good matchup next couple seasons, and this past year Tennessee, they pushed them, but they didn't quite get the win. But I think they've had good battles in the past, and I think these next few are going to be good as well.
Clearly, this is not the matchup and the rivalry that it was years ago, but
probably never will be again. But
right,
it is what it is now.
I think it's still going to be good basketball, good must-see basketball, because it's UConn, Tennessee. When these two teams playing, you're going to watch it, and I think UConn's really going to be able to dominate the series coming up. A lot of people like to see competition there between the two teams, see close games, and we did see that this past season. But UConn's just going to have a lot more talent than all the other teams in the country. I think, especially when you look at the gap between the Huskies and Tennessee, it is there.
I don't know if UConn has the competition they used to as far as recruiting. They do have plenty of competition. We know that, but
yeah.
They don't. It's just it'll never be equal. They'll always be the team that is the most. That's where everyone wants to be. So it'll never be really fair for anyone else. I mean, they always have the best talent. So and it always will be like that. So it's just no one can really compete in the recruiting.
I think the biggest threat. I think the biggest threat for them as far as recruiting is South Carolina right now. When you look at what they're doing, the top 2020, 2019
maybe that's about it, though. I mean, or Baylor's sometimes, team, but it's usually a different team every year. It's not like two teams. They don't have a true rival in the recruiting every year. Like it's always, it's a different team every year. It seems like that has the potential to be the number 2 class, or sometimes have number 1 over UConn.
Right. In 2018, it was Baylor. In 2019,
I mean, it's not always
in 2021, it was South Carolina. So
so it's not always UConn, but
yeah,
it seems like it is, but it's not always. And it's usually Baylor, South Carolina. Those and Stanford sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
There's other talented teams. So in the way of on the court, UConn, this is more competitive than it's ever been, because they haven't won 5 years for a reason, because of the talent that's been recruited to these other teams over the last 5 years.
The gap has very much narrowed.
Closed, man. I mean, I'm just talking about recruiting like, UConn always gets the best player. I'm just saying that. Paige Bueckers on. They always get the best, but it's not always the best class. Sometimes the best player, but not the best class. That's what I meant to say.
Right.
And they've haven't had the best team for years now.
And even though,
or I thought they did this year, though. I kind of thought this year they did, but I think next year there's no doubt they will next year.
And even though they have
this year really. Anyway, I don't know. It would have been if they would have got some championship. It would have been close. I think they could have won it, but it would have been a low scoring. Stanford is well. I don't know. They're just a gritty team. I don't know. So UConn, they'll be back though.
And even though UConn has these tough non-conference games, they're not really huge tests. I mean, sometimes they've lost to Baylor, but outside of that, they've beat everyone else that is named that's a non-conference team. So they really every year they're only tests because they don't get that in Big East.
Sometimes it's a random upset. Well, usually not usually. Here and there sometimes.
Yeah.
Arkansas this year proves that.
Right, and now with the Texas game off the schedule, there's another open slot. I think they'll win against Oregon on the road. They'll certainly beat Notre Dame. The South Carolina game on the road is going to be a tough one. I think South Carolina can win that game. Those two are very close. But again, going back to your point of UConn being...
Well, UConn won this year against South Carolina.
Right.
South Carolina, who they lose to in the They lost to Stanford, right?
Right.
So was that a pretty close game?
That was a mistipping away from
I know. I think South Carolina,
yeah.
I just said, well, UConn maybe had the best team, but Stanford may have, and they won it, but South Carolina actually kind of had the best team in reality.
Yeah.
I think weren't they number one a lot of the year?
Yeah. The thing about UConn was number one there for a long time.
Well, they were.
Stanford started the season as the number one team.
But South Carolina, a lot of people liked,
Right.
And as a team,
I think South Carolina could have went on and won it if they would have won that basketball game. I think Stanford was the most sound. UConn had the best player in Paige Bueckers, but South Carolina.
That's why they beat South Carolina, because of Bueckers. The roster wasn't. If they didn't have her, they'd be in trouble.
I believe she had 33 points in that game, and it was like almost half of their offense. So it was.
But they'll have more help. She'll have more help this year,
and that's why they're more equipped to win it now.
Last year they weren't, because it was almost. I mean, they had other good players, yes, but take Paige off the team,
then it's very similar.
Then they're not gonna win it. I mean, and they didn't win it anyway, but it would have been like the year before.
Yeah,
they would have been like the year before, and they would have had more losses in the regular season. So Tennessee, they would have lost to them probably because she had a big game there too.
Yeah, she had.
Or did she? I thought maybe she struggled in that game.
Her stat line wasn't great in that game.
Remember.
But she had
did have some clutch shots, right?
She had a clutch 3 down the stretch to win that game. She only had, I believe, 10 points in that game.
Well,
the big shot was what did it. So, they would have been the 2019 UConn team without Paige.
And the Arkansas game wouldn't have been that close, I don't think. Arkansas, would have won that game still. And that was UConn's only loss going into the Final Four game.
And obviously, there's that undefeated question. I don't think it was fair to look at undefeated with this team this past year. But this upcoming team should be very dominant. And they look to be ready and equipped to win in their series with Tennessee renewed for another 2 years. So that's what's going on in college basketball, and a big story there with more scheduling news with the UConn Huskies and Tennessee Lady Volunteers.